Chapter 16:15. Breaking into the boudoir at night. Conversely, Nan Gongyu was in a bad mood. The king of Hell Mansion was bustling, but it was too hectic. Butler Nan, in particular, who had always treated Nan Gongyu as his nephew, would never allow any flaws in his master's wedding. This is Nan Gongyu's wedding we're talking about. Is the king of Hell Mansion lavish? It's too old, the pavilions must be renovated. The room's decor is luxurious and elegant? You must be joking. Without displaying a couple of priceless treasures, how can we showcase the style and grandeur of the king of Hell Mansion? Bed canopies, curtains, bedding, and red lanterns? All must be arranged properly. The king of Hell Mansion should not only have everything that mortals use for their weddings but also even things they don't. The days of wedding preparations wore Qing Long, Bai Hu, and Wu Exan out to the point of near collapse. Bai Hu retorted, "Butler Nan, when will you ever be satisfied? By your logic, we might as well just rebuild the entire king of Hell Mansion from scratch." What a great idea! Butler Nan thought for a while, then suddenly clapped his hands and said, "The king of Hell Mansion in Jinling City is no longer big enough. I think we should build another one at the foot of Tsang Mountain, which can be used as a courtyard for the prince and the queen to relax. Bai Hu, you shall be in charge of this matter." Bai Hu sighed, "Butler Nan, you might as well kill me." If Butler Nan was someone everyone tried to avoid, then Nan Gongyu was someone who rendered them all silent in awe. Nan Gongyu hadn't seen Heshi for 6 days. Every time he entered the sealed dragon domain, the barrier would send him out. The straightforward Shigue, who was the only woman in the group, said earnestly, "Mammy once told us that it's bad luck for the bride and groom to see each other before the wedding. Your Highness, King of Hell, please leave." Oh, the so-called Mammy was Deputy General Chen's mortal mother, who was already in her 70s. She was now responsible for teaching Heshi the wedding ceremony. Nan Gongyu's face was gloomy. This was the 3rd time he had been kicked out. Staring at the activated barrier, he scoffed, "You think this measly mountain protection barrier can stop me? Humph, I must see Sheer today no matter what." In the dead of night, the sealed dragon domain fell into silence. Shiyu's house was situated in the area of the Greenwood domain where the spiritual power was abundant. While cultivating the circle of life, she suddenly heard a noise. As she opened her eyes, she saw Nan Gongyu jumping in from the window. She couldn't help but giggle. The mighty king of hell sneaking into a lady's boudoir at night? Aren't you afraid of being taken for a rogue? You're a bad girl. In a flash, Nan Gongyu appeared before her, playfully tapping her nose with a finger. He whispered, "Do you have any idea how much I've missed you? Every time I come over, I'm sent away by your stern-faced maid. I'm willing to be seen as a rogue for you, and yet you mock me." Heshi leaned into his arms and smiled brightly. "Fine, I admit I was wrong. Are you happy now? Just admitting your mistake isn't enough." Nan Gongyu's eyes burned with passion, his voice becoming deeper. "Naughty girl, I need to give you a proper punishment." Upon finishing his sentence, he leaned down to capture Heshi's tender lips in a deep kiss. Heshi felt like her whole body was on fire, as if she would melt into Nan Gongyu's arms at any moment. Chapter 16:16. Likewise, Nan Gongyu took a deep breath to calm his heart's rapid pace. Pulling Heshi back into his embrace, he murmured hoarsely, "Why is it still 5 days until the 9th of September, Shia? I can hardly wait any longer." Heshi wrapped her arms around Nan Gongyu's waist and rested her head against his steadily beating heart, whispering, "Nan Gongyu, have I ever told you that meeting you is the greatest fortune I've had in this world?" With his eyes shining brilliantly and warmly, Nan Gongyu leaned down to kiss her forehead, murmuring, "The feeling is mutual." Heshi suddenly recalled their first encounter, when Nan Gongyu had also snuck into her room at night. Back then, they were both wary of each other, strangers and distant. But now, they were about to become the closest people in the world to each other, inseparable for life. Life truly worked in mysterious ways. Suddenly, Nan Gongyu opened his left palm, revealing a unique, round object that slowly materialized in his hand. To Heshi's surprise, the object seemed to emerge directly from the flesh and blood of Nan Gongyu's palm. From its appearance, it looks like a seed with a green outer layer. What is this? Heshi asked in surprise. Unexpectedly, Nangongyu shook his head. I don't know either. When my mother was still alive, she told me that two strange things happened when I was born. One was that the bright day suddenly turned into night, with the sun, moon, and stars vanishing without a trace. It wasn't an eclipse, and this phenomenon lasted for just an hour. The other was this seed, which floated out from the center of my forehead. Upon hearing this, Heshi couldn't help but reach out and touch Nangongyu's forehead, thinking to herself, if a seed floated out when he was born, would a sprout grow from it in the future? Noticing the amusement in Heshi's eyes, Nangongyu grasped her hand with a hint of exasperation. This was the reason that Nangongyu never wanted to say anything about it. A seed growing from his forehead was just too bizarre. I once tried planting this seed, but it never showed any signs of growth. Sometimes I even wonder if it's not really a seed, but some kind of gemstone or something. Heshi smiled at him and asked, Did you bring out this seed to give it to me? Nangongyu leaned down to give her a gentle kiss and said matter-of-factly, This seed grew from within me, so it's naturally a part of my body. Heshi, all of me belongs to you. How could I not give you a part of myself? Heshi blushed. She playfully pushed him away. This guy is becoming so bold with his words. She carefully put the seed into the void, then stood up and took Nangongyu's hand, saying, Come with me. He queried, Heshi turned back with a mysterious smile on her face. I also have something for you. He leaned in, sniffing the seed once and then again. Suddenly he sneezed. The creature, previously in its pink piggy form, instantly reverted to its original round shape. Little Egg was stunned for a long time before he swung the antennae on his head and transformed himself back into a piglet. He picked up the seed, examining it over and over. But this time, he couldn't find any clues. Bored, he pouted and put the seed back. Inside the treasure box, a faint purplish pattern momentarily flashed on the greenish seed's surface, then vanished without a trace. Chapter 16-17. Dowry Heshi took Nangongyu to the control room of Sealed Dragon Domain. Looking up, the huge sealed dragon sword hanging high above came into view. Heshi waved her hand. Golden patterns slowly emerged on the crystal ceiling above the control room, and then slowly moved in two directions. As the crystal ceiling disappeared, the majestic dragon aura from the sealed dragon sword rushed toward their faces, causing the entire sealed dragon realm to gently tremble due to the unsealing. The spiritual energy in the Greedwood domain and Waterwood domain became even richer, the vegetation thrived more, and the magical beast of the desert domain and ice snow domain also became more active and excited. As the seal of the sealed dragon sword was dispelled, the sealed dragon domain had awoken and revived for the second time. Master, you are finally going to take away the sealed dragon sword. Little golden dragon jumped out of the void and looked at Heshi excitedly. Heshi waved her hand gently. The huge sealed dragon sword hanging above let out a dragon roar, shrank suddenly, drew an arc in the air, and flew into Heshi's hand. Sealed dragon sword had seemingly sealed the power of an ancient dragon. Its attack could split mountains and fill the seas. One strike was enough to make the world tremble. Sealed dragon sword. I haven't felt the aura of the sealed dragon sword for a long time. I miss it so much. The little golden dragon danced and hovered excitedly in the sky, taking deep breaths and inhaling the remaining dragon energy in the air into its mouth. However, Heshi held the sword in both hands and presented it to Nangongyu. I shall give this to you. Consider it my dowry. Nangongyu looked at her blankly, his lips moving as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, he said nothing and reached out to take the sealed dragon sword. Shiyu said that she was lucky to know him. Actually, it was really the other way around. Getting to know Shiyu was the greatest fortune for Nangongyu. Little golden dragon pouted in displeasure, but he had already guessed that Heshi would give the sealed dragon sword to Nangongyu. Although he was unhappy, he didn't say anything. It's the sealed dragon sword. Even in the Siam continent, it's a rare magic weapon. Nangongyu is so lucky. Because of the dragon aura, the people sleeping in the sealed dragon domain woke up and rushed over here. He smiled and said, "Your Highness King of Hell, it's getting late. Please go back quickly." She paused, her face slightly red, her voice gentle and soft. "Silly, in just a few more days, we can be together every moment. There's no need to be anxious since it's only a couple of days away." Before she could finish her words, Nan Gongyu suddenly reached out, hugged her, and kissed her deeply again. It wasn't until the worried voices of Gu Lufeng and others came from the control room did Nan Gongyu let go of her. His figure slowly blended into the darkness, becoming invisible, phasing through the array, and vanished. "Sheer, wait for me. And I love you." She gently exhaled, her eyes filled with a faint touch of melancholy. She had just told Nan Gongyu not to be anxious, but as soon as they parted, she suddenly felt an unwillingness to let go of him and a sense of sorrow for parting. Even 5 days seemed really long. In the magical beast forest, Shaoli had been training very hard after He left, but she had been feeling down. Holding her hand, Liu walked through the forest. She pointed out and introduced peculiar plants and animals, chattering away to make her happy. Wu Qi, who had recovered, followed quietly behind the two of them. His downcast eyes hid the guilt within. Wu Qi knew that Shaoli left the lady and stayed in the magical beast forest because of him. That was because he could only heal his injuries in the magical beast forest. And for Shi Yu, the master he swore loyalty to, Wu Qi had thought of a plan. After avenging himself, he would faithfully stay by her side for 100 years. This would be to repay her for saving his life and taking care of Shaoli. Chapter 16-18. Someone's here, however. Before Wu Qi could repay that kindness, he owed Shiyu more favor. He couldn't even count how many times Shiyu had saved his life and wondered how he could ever repay her. However, even if he wanted to repay her then, with his limited strength, he would have only caused trouble for Shiyu. Wu Qi's eyes flashed with persistence, just like another reason why Shaoli chose to stay in the magical beast forest. He too must become stronger to repay Shiyu's kindness one day. Liu gently stroked the 2 ears that Shaoli didn't bother to hide, softly saying, "Miss Li, please don't be unhappy anymore." The king sent a message saying he would return from the Siam continent in a few days. When he's back, he will take you to Jinling Kingdom to visit Miss Shiyu. Shaoli was the only disciple of Beastkin King Ran Yi, so to other Beastkin, Shaoli was like the princess of their lineage. She would become the queen of this lineage in the future. That was why Liu addressed Shaoli as Mississippi, really? Hearing this, Shaoli's eyes lit up entirely. "Is the king really willing to take me to see Miss?" "What?" Shaoli jumped up in surprise, her whole tiny face flushing red in anxiety. "Why didn't you say this earlier? How could I not attend Mrs. Wedding?" "No, I have to go back and prepare right away." "Oh right, I have to choose lots and lots of gifts for Miss and my future brother-in-law." Liu was amused by her reaction. In the past few days, Shaoli had been looking solemn and focused on cultivation. She didn't look like a young girl at all. But at this time, she was flustered, but she finally looked more like a youth. She smiled and said, "Miss Shaoli, don't worry. The king had told us that he would return to the magic beast forest in the early morning of September 9th. At that time, he will tear the fabric of space and take Miss Shaoli to the wedding. There's no need to fret. Just focus on preparing your gifts in the next few days." Hearing this, Shaoli finally relaxed. Her beautiful eyes gently curved, filled with joy and anticipation. "I can't wait to see Miss soon." Before she could finish her words, Wu Qi's face suddenly changed and he said in a deep voice, "Someone's here." The expressions of the 3 beastkin changed instantly as their smiles faded. Shaoli led Liu and Wu Qi to hide behind a bush. With a wave of his hand, a ray of silver light fell on them. Immediately after, the 3 of them seemed to have vanished, blending into the bush. This was an illusion technique that the 9-tailed silver fox could use after reaching a certain cultivation level. Even if the opponent's cultivation was 2 or 3 levels higher than Shaoli's, they might not necessarily detect it. In the dense, deep woods, several figures slowly emerged. Leading them was Lu Yunhai, the 3rd elder of the Lu family. He glanced at an old man beside him, who had a respectful and fawning expression, and said impatiently, "Is this the place you spoke about?" The old man was the Feng family's patriarch, Venerable Mu Hua. Ever since he was injured by the beastkin King Ran Yi, his internal injuries had not healed. Although he had taken medicine, his cultivation had greatly decreased, now merely at the early stage of nascent soul. Chapter 16:19. Worry. He coughed lightly and said, "Further ahead is the Toad Jade Palace, where many beastkins dwell. I found traces of that thing near Toad Jade Palace back in the day. So if it ever appeared before, it must not be far from here." Cough, cough, cough. Just as Lu Yunhai was about to speak, suddenly, a few women in white dresses and veils gracefully walked over from not far away. Lu Wushuang pays her respects to third uncle. The woman in white clothes bowed gracefully to Lu Yunhai, her voice sweet like a melodious oriole coming out of a valley. Lu Yunhai snorted coldly, frowned, and said, "You're still wearing white clothes when we enter the forest. Are you looking for trouble?" Lu Yunhai's eyebrows raised in anger. "Look at what you have done. The Beastkin King here is a divine beast that has advanced to rank 12. If you anger it and make things worse, how are you going to explain to your father?" "Don't worry, third uncle." Lu Wushuang gently stroked her clothes, which glistened like mercury even in the dim light of the forest, and chuckled. "Wushuang has already learned that Beastkin King Ran Yi is in Siam continent to consolidate his cultivation. In the magical beast forest, the strongest being here is nothing more than a rank 9 monster. They are just a bunch of useless beasts. Why should we be scared? With my humble abilities, I have already set up a crimson voodoo array around the magical beast forest. If the beastkins make no move, we will naturally leave each other be. But if they want to ruin our plans or rush out of the magic beast forest, I guarantee they will die miserably." Upon hearing this, the anger on Lu Yunhai's face finally subsided, and the look he gave Lu Wushuang softened considerably. His niece was exceptionally talented and intelligent, definitely at the top of the Lu family. It was just that her temperament had been too domineering and stubborn, especially emotionally. She would not back down, even if she hit a wall. It had truly been a pity. Behind the bushes, Xiao Li and Liu looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Each of these individuals had high cultivation levels, with Lu Yunhai being the strongest, causing an instinctual fear to rise in the hearts of the three beastkins. It took immense willpower for them to control their trembling and avoid being discovered. Lu Yunhai walked around the area, releasing his divine sense in a wide range. Suddenly his eyes focused. A hint of excitement flashed. "There, I feel a strong life force. It should be there." Seeing the direction Lu Yunhai and others were heading, Liu suddenly turned deathly pale, unable to control her trembling body. Fortunately, Lu Yunhai was in a hurry to find clues, so he didn't notice Liu. After they walked away, Liu said in a trembling voice, "That's where Miss Shiyu treated Nangong Yu's injuries. I know what they are looking for, wood source." Xiao Li gritted her teeth and said, her face turning pale. However, her eyes were firm. "You and Wu Qi stay here. I'll follow them and take a look." "Miss Xiao Li, no." Xiao Li looked at the two, a flash of resolve in her eyes. Suddenly, she took out a few medicine bottles and handed them to Wu Qi and Liu. "Later, I will pass on the information I hear to you through the insects. Both of you, head to the edge of the demon beast forest now." Chapter 16:20. Footage. If I'm caught later, you must leave the magical beast forest and pass the news to Mississippi. "Miss Li, you can't do that." Liu was so anxious that she almost cried. "The king said that nothing can happen to you. How can we let you take such a risk?" Xiao Li shook her head resolutely, her voice heavy. "If something happens to Miss, what's the point of me staying here, desperately training to become stronger? Liu, brother, I'm begging you, you must pass the message to Mississippi. That woman mentioned the Crimson Voodoo Array. I've heard Miss talk about it before. But when it comes to using poison, no one can compare to Mississippi. So take these medicines. If you're stopped, just scatter them. Liu, can you promise me?" Looking at the little girl's firm and calm eyes, Liu couldn't utter a word of refusal, the words stuck in her throat. Her eyes gradually turned red, but in the end, she nodded. With a shimmer, she transformed into her original form, Yumin Bird. Miss Xiao Li, you must be careful. You must stay alive. Tears suddenly welled up in Xiao Li's eyes as she choked out, Brother, you also have to promise, you absolutely must not let anything happen. The three beastkins parted ways. Xiao Li hid her figure and followed them quietly. At her feet, countless black insects and ants lined up in a long line, following behind her. Yet in the forest, the movement of insects and ants was a common occurrence, and no one paid any attention to these tiny creatures. When she arrived at the hidden cave entrance, Xiao Li continued to hide behind a bush. At this moment, the people inside the cave were already full of surprise and excitement. Because in this cave, they had finally found it, the rich essence of wood source, so strong that there was no need to search specifically to feel it. Lu Yunhai looked at Feng Yunzhao, who nodded and sat down cross-legged on the ground. Something similar to a compass appeared in front of him, with a red pointer swaying gently. As Feng Yunzhao gestured in the air, a series of unique air flows began to swirl around him, and the red pointer shifted from a slight wobble to a violent swing. The expressions of everyone around him changed slightly. Even Lu Yunhai looked at Feng Yunzhao with eyes filled with wonder, because they felt that the flow of time was constantly changing, sometimes faster and sometimes slower, as if the fabric of time and space were controlled by this young man. Suddenly, Feng Yunzhao's hands, which were forming seals, thrust out abruptly. His tightly closed eyes flung open. Seeing this, everyone from the Lu family jumped in fright because only the whites of Feng Yunzhao's eyes were visible, with no sight of the black pupils. Odd patterns shimmered on the whites of his eyes. The next moment, in the direction of Feng Yunzhao's finger, a hole seemed to be torn open in the air. Then, footage unfolded before him. There was an exceptionally handsome young man, his hand placed on the back of the person before him, at the area of the dantian. The green light, symbolizing life, circulated like a vortex, emitting a strong aura of life. Shi Yu! Feng family's patriarch and Lu Wushuang exclaimed when they saw the young man. Chapter 1621. Who's there? However, Feng Yunzhao finally couldn't hold on to the technique anymore and spurted out a mouthful of blood. The compass needle stopped shaking. The footage before him disappeared without a trace. There was a moment of silence in the cave. After a long while, Lu Wushuang took a sharp breath. Her face, half covered by a white veil, twisted crazily, as if in excitement, and yet seemingly in deep resentment and jealousy. It turns out to be Shi Yu, the lowly woman Nangong Yu is going to marry. Shi Yu? Haha, I originally wanted to spare her for the time being, but that's not going to happen. I'm going to take the wood source in her life. Feng family's patriarch's expression also changed, becoming increasingly fierce and grim. It turns out that the person who possesses the wood source is Shi Yu. No wonder her cultivation has improved so quickly and her luck is so good. Legend has it that the person who has the wood source is destined to be blessed. Naturally, she will receive many more opportunities and blessings than ordinary people. Lu Yunhai was thrilled. He knew far more about the wood source than Lu Wushuang and the patriarch of the Feng family. He was aware of what kind of benefits awaited the Lu family if they seized the wood source. The Lu family would surely have a brilliant future ahead. Originally, the Feng family patriarch only brought a piece of uncertain news. However, the actual wood source was right before them. Moreover, it was within reach. The party was excited about their discovery. Just as he was about to speak, Lu Yunhai's expression suddenly changed. He shouted sharply towards the entrance of the cave, "Who's there? Show yourself." Xiao Li, who was hiding in the darkness, was startled and thought she had been discovered. Upon seeing the newcomer, Lu Yunhai's eyebrows immediately furrowed deeply, and his expression darkened as he said, "Silver Fox, how come you are here?" The person who appeared was Silver Fox, who wore a mask. Naturally, there was also Lu Shuyang, who had led the way. Hearing this, Silver Fox laughed and said, "Elder Lu, you must be joking. Our Green Vine clan has always traveled between Siam and Miluo. Isn't it normal to appear here? Moreover, some time ago, someone harmed the golden wolf of the Green Vine clan. He was injured, and parts of his soul went missing. I am here, naturally following the orders of my superior, to investigate the matter of the golden wolf being harmed. As for Elder Lu, I remember that apart from Miss Lu, no one from the Lu family ever sets foot on the Miluo continent. I wonder, what brings Elder Lu to this desolate place all of a sudden? Lu Yunhai's expression changed uncertainly. As his gaze fixed firmly on Silver Fox, he said coldly, "We, the Lu family, and your Green Vine clan have always stayed out of each other's business. Today, we have important matters to attend to here. May I request Silver Fox to please make things easy and leave quickly?" Lu Yunhai was unsure if Silver Fox witnessed Feng Yunzhao's technique of rewinding the fabric of time and space. It was also his miscalculation. He thought that this vast boundless monster forest made it impossible for anyone to find this place. So, he only guarded against beasts, not thinking to guard against people at all. In particular, Silver Fox's cultivation level had reached the Void Darkness stage like him. Current cultivation levels: Foundation Establishment stage, Meridian stage, Gold Core stage, Nascent Soul stage, Soul Splitting stage, Void Darkness stage. If he wasn't vigilant with his surroundings, he couldn't find any trace of Silver Fox at all. However, Silver Fox bursts into laughter. What an unfortunate coincidence. I have watched the footage where that boy had incarnated just now. It was Shiyu, right? By coincidence, our Green Vine clan is also here for Shiyu this time. Chapter 1622. Cooperate. Lu Yunhai's face instantly turned frightfully dark as he said ominously, "Silver Fox, are you thinking of snatching that person away from our Lu family?" However, Silver Fox's expression suddenly turned cold as well as he scoffed, "How can you say that? We have already found out that Shiyu is the one who hurt the golden wolf. Our lord has issued an order to capture Shiyu and take her back to the upper realm for the lord to deal with personally. Elder Lu, you don't need to make things complicated." Silver Fox waved his hand in midair. A weapon resembling a crescent moon appeared in his hand, emitting a bright white light in the cave. Elder Lu dares to disregard the reputation of my Green Vine clan. Let's see who will be the final winner in the end. A tremendous momentum suddenly surged in the cave, as the long sword and crescent blade met in the air, clashing together. Boom! A loud noise erupted. The entire cave, including half of the mountain, collapsed. The ground of the magical beast forest was shaking madly, whipping up flying sand and rocks, with violent winds howling. After the first clash, Lu Yunhai and Silver Fox were separated, standing far apart on either side. Both eyes held a deep wariness of each other. Staying far to the side, Lu Xiang suddenly stepped forward, bowing to Silver Fox, saying, "Sir Silver Fox, Elder Lu, since we share the same target, instead of fighting to the death and letting others benefit, why not sit down and discuss how we can cooperate? Otherwise, after you both fight, others may end up reaping the rewards." Silver Fox looked at him sideways and said coldly, "What do you mean by this?" A sly smile flashed in Lu Xiang's eyes. Suddenly, his figure flickered, darting to the hidden little fox's side. He grabbed the little fox by the neck and held it aloft. "It's a nine-tailed silver fox." Lu Yunhai and Silver Fox exclaimed simultaneously. The two masters in the Void Darkness stage failed to notice a fox hiding nearby. If the fox beast skins spread the word about the wood's source, the consequences would be really unimaginable. "Let me go, you bad person. Let me go." The little fox struggled desperately, but couldn't break free from Lu Xiang's grasp. Instead, as soon as she struggled, she felt her beastkin power flow to Lu Xiang, making her dare not move again. The pride in Lu Xiang's eyes flashed. He could discover Shaoli because he had once completely devoured the life force of a beastkin and was sensitive to a beastkin's presence. Silver Fox grabbed Shaoli. As his spiritual power came into contact with the little fox, his expression changed slightly. It's Ran Yi's aura. An immense protective aura of a cub. "Who are you to beastkin Ranny?" Shaoli twisted her neck and said, Let me go. If you dare to hurt me, my master will never let you go. Silver Fox looked up at Lu Yunhai and said slowly, Elder Lu, what do you say? Lu Yunhai looked at Shaoli. His expression changed rapidly, and he didn't speak for a long time. Lu Wushuang had gracefully walked forward, winked at Silver Fox, and said to Lu Yunhai, Third uncle, why not cooperate with the Green Vine clan instead of having both sides suffer a loss? All matters of profit distribution could be discussed after we obtain the wood source. Chapter 1623. Chase. After all, the Green Vine clan was a robust clan. If both sides went to war, it would definitely attract the attention of others. It would become much more unpredictable who would end up with the wood source in their possession. Lu Yunhai slowly exhaled and said, Fine, for the wood source, my Lu family will cooperate with your Green Vine clan. The most important thing now was to get the wood source first. As for who got to keep the wood source, it would all depend on their own abilities in the competition. Third uncle, what should we do with this little fox? Lu Wushuang looked at Xiao Li's delicate face and chuckled, Why don't you give it to me and put her at my disposal? Silver Fox narrowed his eyes and said, Miss Lu, it's best to not have this idea. The Winged Dragon clan is a vengeful beastkin. If Ranni finds out that you killed his precious disciple, the entire Siam continent's beastkin clan will hunt down the Lu family crazily. Ranni alone was not scary. What was truly frightening was the clan of divine beasts behind him. If this little fox was just an ordinary beastkin, they could kill it. However, that option wasn't feasible now. Lu Yunhai did not object either. He tossed the little fox, who was bound by the golden silk, to a subordinate of the Lu family. Keep a close watch on it. Don't let it escape until the matter is settled. Since they had reached a temporary truce, both sides sat down in the cave to discuss their next steps. 3 days from now is the wedding of Nangong Yu and Shi Yu. We'll strike at that time. Silver Fox said solemnly. Lu Wushuang was puzzled and growing impatient. Since we've already confirmed Shi Yu's identity, why not act immediately? The longer we let that wretched person enjoy herself, the more intense my jealousy burns. Silver Fox sneered. Didn't you know that immortal Xian Qing is Shi Yu's master and is still by her side? Lu Yunhai and others were all shocked. They wouldn't have a chance if immortal Xian Qing were here. On the other hand, Silver Fox wore a smug smile. Don't worry, everyone. Our Lord has already taken care of this matter. In just a couple of days, Xian Qing will return to the Siam continent and won't be able to come back for a while. Everyone in the Lu family was immediately overjoyed and began to discuss how to kidnap Shi Yu quickly and covertly. Those people engaged in conversation failed to notice that at the bound feet of the little fox, numerous insects and ants were swiftly crawling toward the outside of the cave as if they were racing against the clock. The well-thought-out plan was finally set. Lu Wushuang revealed a sinister and crazed smile. On their wedding day, Nangong Yu and Shi Yu will surely be very happy, very blissful, won't they? I wonder how their happiness and sweetness will be shattered in that moment, plunging them into the depths of hell and into such misery and despair. I can't wait to see that day arrive. Suddenly, Lu Wushuang's laughter came to an abrupt halt. With anger in her eyes, she screamed, No, a beastkin has broken through my crimson voodoo array. Everyone's expressions were grim, and they all looked at Xiao Li. Xiao Li was filled with a fearless expression as she sneered, You wicked and shameless bunch, your plot will never succeed. Lu Shuyang frowned and said, I remembered that this little fox is Shi Yu's spiritual pet. She must have sent the message to inform Shi Yu and Nangong Yu. Lu Yunhai's face darkened. He said in frustration, Chase them right away. We must kill those 2 beastkins, and we can't let them relay the message. Chapter 1624. Phoenix Crown and Iridescent Dress. As Lu Yunhai spoke, he looked at Xiao Li coldly. Even if I can't kill you, I can get rid of your beastkin friends. The Lu family has already enclosed the magical beast forest. Do you really think they can escape and relay the news? Keep dreaming. Members of the Lu family and Silver Fox all headed out. Some went to hunt down the beastkins, while others went to arrange the wood source hunting plan. Xiao Li lowered her head in the hands of the Liu family. At this time, there was no longer any indignation on her face, only worry and panic remained. Miss, Brother Liu, you all have to be okay? Nothing bad can happen to you. On the 8th of September, the wedding of Heshi and Nangong Yu was just around the corner. The King of Hell Mansion and the sealed dragon domain were caught in the final moment's tension. Had the dowry been sorted out? Was the bridal chamber properly decorated? Would the wedding procession be safe? Everything made people on both sides nervous. Yet, amidst all this, only the bride-to-be, Heshi, remained cool as a cucumber. She continued her cultivation and potion-making unperturbed as if it wasn't her who was tying the knot tomorrow, but someone else. To be more precise, it was the main party involved being unperturbed. Firstly, it was immortal Xian Qing, who was lying next to Heshi, drinking wine and eating delicious food. The other person was Gu Liufeng's mother, Gu Yun. She had seemingly behaved like a child, roaming the place and playing by herself all day long. For some reason, these past few days, she had taken to sitting next to Heshi and weaving strange patterns with red rope. When Mai Xiang and Qing Luan came in, they smelled the alcohol in the room, which had even permeated the phoenix crown and iridescent dress beside Heshi. They were shocked and said, "Old man, how could you do this? If you want to drink, go outside and drink. How can you let the lady's boudoir and wedding dress be tainted with the smell of alcohol?" Immortal Xian Qing burped and chuckled. "What's wrong with the smell of wine? The wine smells delicious. I even feel like I'm having a loss when the smell of alcohol is picked up by my disciple's wedding dress. My disciple, am I right?" Heshi glanced at immortal Xian Qing with a smile and said nothing. She held a pen in her hand and wrote something quickly on the paper. Qing Luan leaned over and took a peek. She realized that it was various calculations for the ingredient ratios of various medicinal pills. She immediately complained, "Miss, what on earth are you doing studying pill refining at a time like this? Have you tried it on? This fabric was woven for you from thousands of silken threads from heavenly silkworms, provided by the King of Hell. It was painstakingly sewn together, stitch by stitch, by Mai Xiang and Mu Dong. They worked their fingers to the bone, day and night." Heshi smiled and said, Okay, I don't need to look at this wedding dress. I can already tell at just one glance that it fits perfectly. This is made by Mai Xiang and Mu Dong. How can it not be suitable?" Mai Xiang blushed and playfully urged Heshi, "Miss, just give it a try, okay? If there's anything off, there's still time to make adjustments now." Heshi, deciding to indulge their wishes, stood up and gently waved her hand toward the phoenix crown and iridescent dress. In the blink of an eye, the fiery red wedding dress was neatly adorned on her, complementing her snow-like, jade-like skin, shimmering brilliantly under the crystal light. Mai Xiang and Qing Luan drew a deep breath. After a while, Mai Xiang murmured, "His Royal Highness, King of Hell, is so lucky." Qing Luan felt that although these words were demeaning to her master, she couldn't agree more. Chapter 1625. Leaving immortal Xian Qing shook his head with regret. "That's what I said. That young rascal got lucky. My precious disciple is both smart and beautiful, and now she ends up as that old guy's granddaughter-in-law. What a loss." Heshi was amused by their reaction. Seriously, why the over-the-top act? Just as Heshi was about to take off the wedding dress, Gu Yulan, who had been sitting quietly nearby making knots in a rope, suddenly stood up. Staring at Heshi, she murmured, Miss. As she said that, she rushed toward Heshi, knelt in front of her, and started sobbing. Heshi was taken aback. Just as she was about to check if Gu Yulan had a relapse of her old ailment, Gu Yulan extended her hand, passing the finished knotted rope to Heshi. "Miss, you need to live well. You're a good person, you'll surely find happiness." With that said, she stood up and ran out of the room with a cheerful smile like a child. Heshi and the others were confused by this turn of events. Why did Gu Yulan suddenly call her Miss? Did something startle her? Heshi examined the knotted rope, turning it over in her hands. She tilted it to a certain angle and paused slightly, thinking, why does this knot look familiar? While she was trying to remember where she had seen such a knot before, immortal Xian Qing suddenly sprang up from the ground beside her. He looked over in surprise, only to see immortal Xian Qing open his palm. On his rough hand, the blood-red characters appeared, "Help." Immortal Xian Qing's expression immediately turned extremely solemn, with a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He remained silent for a long while. He walked over and said, "Master, did something happen? If you have something urgent to deal with, you can leave first." A look of hesitation surfaced on immortal Xian Qing's face. "However, I have this uneasy feeling about your situation. I'm concerned that the Green Vine clan and Nangong family might still target you. I initially planned to leave after your wedding, but now, it's fine, Master." He held immortal Xian Qing's rough hand and said softly, "Master, I can protect myself, and Nangong you will look out for me. If you have important matters to attend to, you should go. If you miss this chance, I fear you'll regret it in the future." He smiled and said, "Master, you are so long-winded. Don't worry, I will prepare more varieties of fine wine for you to drink when you come back." That's right." Immortal Xian Qing laughed while stroking his beard. "Since I missed out on this celebratory drink, I'll make up for it tenfold or even 100-fold in the future. My dear disciple, wait for me. I'll be back before you know it." After saying that, immortal Xian Qing did not stay any longer and vanished from the sealed dragon domain in a flash. Immortal Xian Qing had always believed people coveted Shiyu for her wood spiritual root. However, he didn't realize that Heshi's talents weren't limited to just the wood spirit root. It was in fact the wood source, something every martial artist would go crazy for. Shiyu never got the chance to explain the matter clearly. Meanwhile, immortal Xian Qing had always taken the wood spiritual root seriously. Had immortal Xian Qing known the truth, he wouldn't have left his disciples so readily. The 9th of September had finally arrived. The entire Yanjing city seemed to be painted in a bright and fiery red. The sounds of drums, laughter, and chatter filled every street and alley. The entire city was buzzing with excitement. Chapter 1626, 100 Miles Procession. As the early evening settled, the sealed dragon domain on Tsang Mountain let out a loud roar, and rays of iridescent light bloomed. That was the Wukong Gate. When it first opened years ago in the sealed dragon domain's secret territory, it drove the martial artists of the entire Miluo continent wild with excitement. On this day, the gate opened once again. The faint golden gate slowly opened under the dazzling sunlight, and a line of figures gradually emerged from within. Boom, crackle, rumble. Countless fireworks were set off during the day, yet they painted the azure sky with a riot of colors. In the Wukong Gate, there came the roar of wild beasts, the crisp chirping of birds, and the whooshing sound of the wind. On this day, every creature within the secret domain was there to honor and send off their master on her wedding day. In the sealed dragon domain, from the moment the first person in the wedding procession stepped out of the Wukong Gate to the time the last one gestured for the gate to close, it took a full hour. From the base of Tsang Mountain to the King of Hell Mansion, the road was adorned with bright red silk sprinkled with gold powder, shimmering in the sunlight. The onlookers crowded at the entrance of Yanjing City couldn't help but exclaim, This isn't just a grand procession spanning 10 miles, it's more like 100 miles. The leaders of the wedding procession had already entered Yanjing City, but those at the end hadn't even stepped out of the Tsang Mountain's boundary yet. And those openly displayed boxes of magical treasures and elixirs filled the air with a rich aroma of spiritual energy. The bride and groom were practically flaunting just how wealthy they truly were. He lounged comfortably in the spacious palanquin, stretching lazily. Ting, reference link for the carriage. She was still wearing her wedding dress, but she had set the phoenix crown beside her, finding it simply too heavy. While most brides in their palanquins were anxious and nervous, not daring to move, He was probably the only one this relaxed and carefree. Just as she was about to use her divine sense to gauge the time left until arrival, a small, inconspicuous black insect crawled into the palanquin. The top figures from the 3 major families are almost all here. I also spotted that guy from the Qixing Palace you met on Breaking Spirit Mountain. I think his name is Xia Yichen. His face was a picture of incredulity. He kept muttering, "Is she you really a woman? How is that possible? Can a woman be that formidable?" It was hilarious, huh? She glanced at Little Golden Dragon. Little Golden Dragon immediately reined in its gleeful, gossipy expression. Swinging its dragon horns, it said, I know, master, you sent me there to check if Shao-Chi would get frightened at the feast or if someone would bully him, right? Don't worry. Unless Nan Gongyu doesn't want to marry you anymore, who would dare upset their future brother-in-law? Ouyang Haoshuan and Gu Lufeng are with him. Bai Hu and the others have been finding him the most delicious spiritual delicacies. The boy understands that his sister is getting married and it is a big day, so he sits upright and is quite well behaved. A smile appeared on Heshi's face. Little Golden Dragon flew up to her and showed a sly smile. Master, aren't you curious about Nan Gongyu's current expression? I purposefully climbed up close to get a better look, but he noticed me. Then he told me to let you know not to be impatient because soon, it'll be your night. Chapter 1627. Completed ceremony. Heshi's face turned red, and she said with a hint of annoyance, "Get back into the void now." The little golden dragon did a roll and disappeared within the palanquin. Just before leaving, it didn't forget to say laughingly, "Don't worry, master. Little Egg and I will stay in the void obediently. We're looking forward to your wedding night." The bride has arrived. As the MC shouted, the firecrackers at the door of the King of Hell Mansion rang out like thunder. Heshi was helped out of the palanquin. Though she wore the phoenix crown with a beaded veil, her stunning beauty still shone through. Upon seeing the bride, everyone collectively gasped, so astonished that they momentarily forgot to breathe. Nan Gongyu held his breath as he approached Heshi. He then gently crouched down and carefully lifted the only woman he had ever loved onto his back, step by step, heading towards the main hall. Though it was just a few hundred steps from the entrance to the main hall, a distance Nan Gongyu could cover in a flash, he now walked slowly and steadily. It was as if he was carrying the most precious treasure and the greatest responsibility of his life. Bow to the ancestors and elders. From this moment on he, Nan Gongyu, would no longer be alone and would always have someone by his side. Bow to the heaven and earth. From now on, they would support and rely on each other, standing side by side through thick and thin, inseparable in life and death. Bow to each other as husband and wife. From this day forward, Nan Gongyu would have a beloved wife, Shiyu, to cherish for all eternity. The ceremony is completed. Send them in for the consummate night. The onlooking guests erupted in thunderous cheers. Seeing this married couple, who looked as if they were heaven-sent, standing together, everyone felt that there couldn't be a more perfect match than these two. Only Nan Gongyu was worthy of Shiyu, and only Shiyu was worthy of Nan Gongyu. In the hall, old lady Nan Gong wore a benevolent smile, looking at the couple with great satisfaction and nodding approvingly. By the time the couple was escorted inside, the smile on her face became even warmer and more joyous, without a hint of imperfection. Nan Gongyu and Heshi's bridal chamber was set up in what was originally Nan Gongyu's master bedroom. By now, the entire bedroom had transformed into a cozy and elegant space. Red crystals were placed around the room, casting a particularly festive vibe throughout. Due to Nan Gongyu's commanding presence, those who had initially wanted to barge in and playfully disturb the couple were promptly shooed away. With the bridal chamber finally settling into a rare silence, Nan Gongyu gently lifted the beaded veil from Heshi's face. Gazing at her flawless beauty, his voice turned husky and deep. "Shir, I've finally brought you home as my bride. From now on, you are truly mine. You're my only wife." Heshi narrowed her eyes and smiled. "You're mine too, my only husband." Unable to resist any longer, Nan Gongyu leaned down and gently captured her petal-soft lips, kissing her tenderly. He even tasted the lipstick on Heshi's lips as he deepened the kiss. "Nan Gongyu, how can the groom move on to the consummate so early?" If you don't have a drink with us, we won't let you spend time with the bride. Ah, that's right. The groom, come out quickly. Outside the door, boisterous voices could be heard. Most of them were from the elders of the Miracle Healer Academy. Shinsen also chimed in. Frustrated, Nan Gongyu released Hashi and gazed at her intensely, murmuring, Hashi, let's ignore them and sneak into another room to continue our wedding night, okay? Really? I'm struggling to hold back. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. The heat exuding from his body portrayed how much he longed to possess the beloved girl in front of him, and he didn't want to wait even for a moment. Chapter 1628. Everything's fine. Hishi's face was flushed. She smiled and pushed him away. Nan Gongyu, you'd better get out quickly. Otherwise, they will probably rush into the room. Sure enough, Zheng Shouyue's angry voice sounded outside the door again. Do you think you can just easily marry away our Miracle Healer Academy's girl? Nan Gongyu, you'd better come out quickly. I will make you drunk today. Nan Gongyu had a look of reluctance and anger, with a hint of childish grievance. Heshi pursed her lips, leaned close to his ear and whispered, Go quickly. I'll wait for you to come back and tie the knot. Nan Gongyu's heart fluttered, the fiery passion within him intensifying. Taking a few deep breaths, he smiled and gently tapped Hishi's forehead, saying, You naughty girl. Then he turned around and left the bridal chamber. Just after midnight, the old lady Nangong, still dressed in her extravagant attire, slowly made her way toward the bridal chamber. She was accompanied by two ordinary-looking mammies. Guarding the entrance to the bridal chamber were Qing Luan and Wu Nian, as well as the two guards Heshi brought from Sealed Dragon Domain, Shi Jia and Shi. Seeing old lady Nangong, Wu Nian and Qing Luan both showed respectful expressions. Greetings, old lady Nangong. Seeing her walking to the bridal chamber, Qing Luan couldn't help but ask curiously, Old lady Nangong, what can I do for you? Qing Luan was a little surprised but had no doubts. Old lady Nangong had always been kind to the master. Even when she thought that the miss was a man, she never opposed the marriage. There was no reason for Qing Luan to doubt the old lady. However, Shi Jia was baffled. Why did the heirloom have to be given to the young miss on the wedding night? Couldn't it be given during the tea ceremony the next day? Just as he was about to speak, he heard old lady Nangong continue. In our Nangong family, when a newcomer enters, they have to pay respects to our ancestors the next day. If Yu's bride doesn't wear this jewelry during the ceremony, I'm afraid the others might have some thoughts or reservations. Old lady Nangong said so. Although Shi Jia was suspicious, she didn't say anything. The door of the bridal chamber was slowly opened. After the three people entered, it slowly closed again. Shi Jia frowned and glanced in the direction of the bridal chamber from time to time. After 15 minutes, old lady Nangong walked out of the bridal chamber with a relieved smile on her face. Following behind her were the same two inconspicuous mammies. After instructing the two to take good care of Nangong Yu and Shi Yu, old lady Nangong gracefully took her leave. I'm fine. What happened? Peering through the crack, under the soft glow of the firelight, sat a woman dressed in bridal attire. The phoenix crown was still on her head, and the beaded veil hung down, concealing her face. However, one could vaguely see the stunning beauty beneath it. Seeing Shi Yu sitting there unharmed, Shi Jia breathed a sigh of relief, chiding himself for being overly suspicious. If the people of the King of Hell Mansion trusted old lady Nangong, then it naturally meant she was trustworthy. Chapter 1629. Who are you? At the wedding banquet, the party was in full swing, with lively chatter and laughter filling the entire King of Hell Mansion. Butler Nan followed Nangong Yu, looking at the densely packed banquet with no end in sight. He then looked at Nangong Yu, who was still graceful and handsome even though he was drunk. He felt happy in his heart. He had watched his young master grow up, witnessed him lose his family and happiness, thinking he'd spend his life in solitude. But who would have thought he found the love of his life and would be getting married? Perhaps in some time, a little heir would be born, and the King of Hell Mansion would become even livelier. Just thinking about such a future, Butler Nan's eyes crinkled with laughter. I wish this happy and warm scene could last forever. Gu Lufeng raised his glass, handing it to Nan Gongyu. His face was smiling, but his eyes held an unspeakable gravity. Nan Gongyu, I'm entrusting Shiyu to you. If you dare harm her in any way, I won't hesitate to use all I have to make you pay. Nan Gongyu smiled, said nothing, and drank all the wine in the glass. Nonsense, as Nan Gongyu's wife, I'm going to pamper her. How would I treat her badly? He shook the empty wineglass and looked at Ouyang Haoshuan standing next to Gu Lufeng. In the dead of night, the man's spiritual energy fluctuated like a blazing flame. Nan Gongyu could feel it even without using his spiritual vision. However, despite the burning fire, his eyes were cold and dark, as if there was no warmth at all. Ouyang Haoshuan did not come to toast like Gu Lufeng, nor did he have the slightest intention to entrust Shiyu and ask Nan Gongyu to treat Shiyu well. Gu Lufeng bumped into him and asked him to toast. Ouyang Haoshuan smirked, filling his cup with wine and downing it in one gulp. He then remarked casually, "Wherever Shiyu is, I'll be there. Can the king of Hell Mansion accommodate someone like me?" He lived the remainder of his life solely for Shiyu. As for whom Shiyu loved or married, he truly didn't care, as long as it was the life Shiyu desired. Nan Gongyu's eyes sharpened. He was about to speak when suddenly, a strong wave of irritation and unease surged within him. His complexion paled slightly. A foreboding feeling spread in his heart as if something bad was happening. Nan Gongyu put down his wineglass, turned around, and walked toward the bridal chamber. Many people came up to offer toasts along the way. He really wanted to swat them away in annoyance, but this was his wedding banquet, his special day with Shiyu. So, he could only patiently avoid them. When he arrived at the bridal chamber, it was still quiet, no different from when he left. "Where's Shi'er?" Qing Wan covered her mouth and giggled. "Master, what are you talking about? The young lady is a newlywed, so she is naturally waiting in the bridal chamber. Do you still need to ask?" Nan Gongyu breathed a sigh of relief, and slowly let go of his worries. Yet, an inexplicable irritation persisted, prompting him to push open the door to the bridal chamber and softly call out, "Shi'er." As soon as he spoke, the person sitting at the head of the bed turned to look at him. The bright red wedding gown, the dazzling phoenix crown, and the familiar face of stunning beauty beneath that crown. Yet, the moment he saw that face, Nan Gongyu's expression changed drastically. In a flash, he was in front of the person, violently grabbing their throat. His voice was chillingly cold, reminiscent of a hellish Azura. "Who are you? Why are you here? Where is Shiyu?" Chapter 1630. Fainted. Mother, wake up. Wake up. In a deep sleep, Heshi heard little eggs call in her ears. When she opened her eyes, she felt that her head weighed 1,000 pounds. Sob. "Mom, what should I do? Little golden dragon and little cow have both fainted. That fat bird has also passed out. Mom can't wake up either. Little egg is so scared." Heshi furrowed her brows. She tried to sit up. However, she felt as if an invisible force had bound her entire body, leaving her completely immobilized. She looked around and found that she seemed to be in an old mansion. The surroundings were still filled with the smell of dust and rotten wood. What happened? Heshi's memories slowly drifted back to not long ago. When Heshi heard old Lady Nangong's voice in her bridal chamber, she immediately became wary. Heshi even had the invisible needle in her hand, ready to strike. However, since Nan Gongyu cared about his grandmother, she kept her wariness hidden. She just sat on the bed and looked at the old lady who walked in calmly. However, what Heshi hadn't expected caught her off guard. As soon as Lady Nangong entered the bridal chamber, she closed the door behind her. Without even a greeting, the mammy behind her immediately raised her hand. A mysterious smoke, seeming almost alive, shot straight toward Heshi on the bed. Even with Heshi's expertise in poisons, she felt dizzy when she caught a whiff of that mysterious smoke. Her body suddenly became weak and limp. She collapsed onto the bed. The horror Heshi felt could not be described in words. Heshi tried to mobilize her internal spiritual force, forcing the small amount of inhaled sedative into a corner of her meridians. Her mind immediately cleared. However, she still pretended to be unconscious, keeping her eyes shut and feigning collapse on the bed. Old Lady Nangong's voice came to her ears. I heard that Shiyu is proficient in poison. I didn't expect that this smoke would be so powerful that even Shiyu couldn't resist it. A woman's deep laughter echoed in the room, filled with mockery. Expert in poisons? Only the trash from Miluo would praise such a young girl so highly. What does this kind of skill amount to in the face of my Lu family's soul-devouring poison? Listening to this woman's voice, it was obvious that she was not an old nanny, but a young woman. With a complicated expression, Old Lady Nangong looked at Heshi and whispered, "Don't blame me. If you must blame someone, it's because you got in their way. Jingxue, do your part." Heshi felt a slight shiver in her heart. With her eyes slightly closed, she saw that the other old woman standing next to Old Lady Nangong slowly turned into Yun Jingxue. Yun Jingxue looked very excited. Her gaze landed on Heshi. With the compliment of the wedding dress, Heshi's stunning face appeared even more alluring, delicate, and captivating. The more Yun Jingxue gazed at Heshi, the more her heart burned with jealousy and hatred. She wanted to rush over and scratch Heshi's face, which was many times more beautiful than hers. However, Yun Jingxue couldn't help her growing excitement, thinking that everything Shiyu possessed would soon be hers. The handsome and outstanding Nangong Yu would become her husband. She would get everything from Shiyu and replace Shiyu. She quickly exchanged her clothes for Shiyu's, donned the phoenix crown, and sat on the bed. Chapter 1631. Swapped. The nanny beside Old Lady Nangong waved her hand and sent a red orb toward Yun Jingxue. The orb covered Yun Jingxue's face. It suddenly twisted on Yun Jingxue's face like jelly and emitted a dark red light. When the light dissipated, Yun Jingxue's face turned completely into that of Heshi, so beautiful that there was almost no flaw in it. The woman dressed as an old mammy breathed a sigh of relief. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and said with satisfaction, "This disguise can last for 8 hours. Even if the martial artists of the Void Darkness were to come, they wouldn't find any flaws. Hee, 8 hours is more than enough time for you and Nangong Yu to enjoy your wedding night." Upon hearing that, Heshi's heart skipped a beat and her breathing became a little heavier. The bad news alarmed her. She swiftly leaped into the air, launching a poisoned silver needle from her hand towards the woman. A sharp pain came from her face, causing the woman disguised as an old mammy to groan in pain. Feeling a numbing pain on her face, the woman's eyes flashed with fury. Suddenly, with a flick of her hand, a large dark red insect fell to the ground from her grasp. The dark red insect exuded a terrifying and sinister aura. It blew a puff of smoke at Heshi, who was about to escape the room. Heshi suddenly felt dizzy and lost consciousness. Even the fellows in the void were affected by the smoke, fainting one after another. Only Little Egg, despite feeling sore all over, remained conscious. "Crimson Voodoo King!" Old Lady Nangong exclaimed, taking a step back with fear in her eyes. With a triumphant look, the woman glared at the unconscious Heshi. She scoffed, "She's such a cunning one. She almost fooled even me. Even our Lu family's soul-devouring poison couldn't affect her. Fortunately, the third elder was cautious and entrusted me with the Crimson Voodoo King." After speaking, the woman waved her hand. Heshi, who had been unconscious, slowly stood up as if controlled like a puppet. Her appearance also changed to that of the old mammy that Yun Jingxue had previously disguised into. Just like when they entered, the three left flawlessly. All that remained was the beautifully decorated bridal chamber and the stunning bride. Yet, no one knew that inside, everything had been switched out. After listening to Little Egg's story, Heshi's face became solemn. Heshi witnessed Yun Jingxue's appearance when she used the disguise voodoo. It was entirely different from using spiritual power to change one's appearance, which even Heshi could hardly spot any flaws. Can Nangong Yu see through it? Will he really consummate the marriage with Yun Jingxue? The mere thought of Nangong Yu getting close to another woman filled Heshi's eyes with intense irritation. The Lu family is at Lu Wushuang. However, based on Ouyang Haoshuan's description of Lu Wushuang's cultivation, I don't believe the Thousand Poison Valleys master would have such formidable tricks. Otherwise, my fate would be far worse when Feng Lianying cast voodoo on me in Breaking Spirit Mountain. Little Egg, where am I now? He asked Little Egg using divine sense. Little Egg wiped away its tears and cried, Mom, they're still in Yanjing City. Because of your grand wedding with Dad tonight, the entire city forbids flying and using teleportation arrays. Also, at this hour, the city gates are closed, so it seems they could only come here. Chapter 1632. Come in. Little Egg was talking when suddenly, a burst of chaotic footsteps approached. He soon heard the voice of the woman who knocked her out. Is the teleportation array ready yet? We must send her out immediately. It will take another hour before the teleportation array can be used. The Nangong family guy has set up some tricks in the barrier in Yanjing City. All the teleportation arrays cannot be activated for the time being. Now we have to change the runes to activate this one, but it can only send us just outside the Yanjing City. A man's voice reported and then chuckled, Don't worry, Mrs. Qianyu. The King of Hell is currently preoccupied with playing the groom and receiving toasts. Moreover, even after the toasts are done, seeing a stunning beauty who looks exactly like his wife, do you really think he'd resist approaching her? As long as Nangong Yu sleeps with Yun Jingxue, he'll be controlled by the voodoo. Then won't he be at the mercy of our Lu family? Do you think he'd still pursue this young girl? It turned out that the woman who kidnapped He was named Qianyu. When He heard them entering the house, He immediately closed her eyes and pretended to have passed out again. In reality, even if she didn't pretend to be unconscious, she couldn't do anything. To this moment, it felt like her entire body was bound, unable to even move her fingers, let alone escape. Qianyu frowned and said, It's always better to be safe than sorry. No matter what, we need to leave Yanjing as soon as possible. Once we can fly and teleport, even if someone notices anything, they won't be able to catch up with us, even if they had wings. Yes, Mrs. Qianyu. The group walked into the room where He was being held. The men who were following Qianyu saw the unconscious girl on the ground. Even though she was dressed in the most ordinary attire, in the dim light, she looked as breathtaking as a fairy from the heavens. Just a glance would make one's breath catch, and it was hard not to drool. Qianyu touched her face, noticing that the scratch hadn't healed yet. She glanced at the still unconscious He and then at her subordinates beside her, their eyes filled with greed. A mocking and sinister smirk crossed her eyes. You all stay here and watch her closely. I'll go check on the teleportation array. I'll be back in an hour. All you need to do is hand her over to me unharmed. As for what you want to do within this hour, I won't interfere. Qianyu's words made the eyes of these men light up with intense excitement. After the woman walked out of the room and locked the door behind her, the men walked toward He. Everyone's eyes were wide open. Their fervent, fiery gazes seemed as though they'd melt the young girl's clothes, revealing her delicate, snow-white skin. From the void, Little Egg cried out anxiously, Mom, Mom, what are we going to do? So, these bad guys want to harm you. Mom, please take refuge in the void quickly, okay? He was also filled with anxiety. She had tried everything, her internal spiritual force, spiritual power, or the continuously generated essence from the circle of life, but none could free her. As the men with ill intentions drew closer, a stubby hand reached for He's clothes. Little Egg in the void let out a piercing cry. It was so sharp that the entire void shook. Mom, come in quickly. He felt a brief disorientation before a wave of spiritual power surged toward her and the scent of vegetation filled her senses. She opened her eyes in surprise, looked around, and was immediately startled. Chapter 1633. A discerning eye. I'm in the void. I've actually entered the void? Peering out through her divine sense, He could clearly see everything within 100 meters. Her physical body was nowhere to be found. Only a few men who were previously consumed with lust stood there, their expressions filled with shock and panic as they frantically searched around. Little Egg cried and threw itself into Hushy's arms, sobbing, "Mom, you scared me to death." Hushy opened her mouth to speak, but her body was still restrained. All that came out in her raspy, broken voice was, "What happened?" Little Egg wiped away tears with a confused look on its face. It didn't know how Hushy entered the void. At that moment, all it desperately thought was, "Mom has to come in. She must get out of danger and enter this void." And then, Hushy appeared before its eyes. It wasn't like before, where Hushy was just a consciousness, actually a mirror image of her physical body that could eat, drink, and practice. Any harm to either body would be felt by both. This time, her entire body had entered the void fully. Little Egg was happy for a while, but then it realized that Hushy still couldn't move. It tried various methods, giving Hushy medicine and channeling spiritual power into her. However, its efforts were to no avail. Chirp, chirp, the feeble cry of Little Red Bird suddenly came from the quiet void. Little Egg raised its head in surprise. "Little Red Bird, are you awake? Are you okay?" "Chirp, chirp, chirp, silly, fetch the Heavenly God pill and quickly give it to your clueless master to take." "Heavenly God pill? What is that? Where is it?" Little Red Bird rolled its eyes, dragged its tired body, flapped its wings, and flew into the Xian Shao Palace. After a while, it took out a black medicinal pill from inside. "Tweet, tweet, tweet, you're a bunch of idiots, wasting such a treasure. There are only 2 such precious Heavenly God pills left in the world, but you are throwing them away like rubbish and piling them up with other junk. If it weren't for my discerning eye, the Heavenly God pill would have been wasted." Little Red Bird had originally planned to secretly share the pill with Shao-Chi one day, so they would both become immune to all poisons. However, since their current cultivation levels were too low to handle the potency of the Heavenly God pill, they had been holding off. The Heavenly God pill was a legendary treasure made from 99 types of unique and precious ingredients. It was refined for 9,981 days under the solar divine fire, after which, the essence of a 1,000-year-old malevolent spirit was infused into it. Anyone who consumed this pill would no longer have feared curses or poisons. Countless people had gone mad desiring this very item. Who would have thought that Miss would get so lucky today? Tisk, it's not like I care about her well-being. It's just that I don't want Shao-Chi to be heartbroken. Yes. I'm just worried about Shao-Chi's feelings. Little Egg blinked its eyes when it saw the medicinal pills and finally remembered. "Ah, aren't these the 2 medicinal pills we obtained when the first level of Ling Shao Palace just opened? I didn't expect these 2 medicinal pills to be such powerful treasures." Sure enough, after Hushy swallowed the pill, the feeling of being constrained immediately disappeared without a trace. Her spiritual power and internal spiritual force also returned. She even felt a cold energy being released from the pores of her skin, drifting into her ancient rhyme spiritual field, and then completely absorbed by the cold eating flower. Chapter 1634, Bloodbath in Yanjing. Of course, they understood how crucial the captive was. If they lost her on their watch, it would cost them their lives. However, even though they practically turned the place upside down, they couldn't find a trace of her. What's going on? Where is Shiyu? Qianyu never expected that just an hour later when she came to see Hushy's miserable state she would find several men darting around the backyard like headless chickens. The night was cool, but they were so frantic that they were drenched in cold sweat. Shiyu, who was originally unconscious on the ground, had long since disappeared. We really don't know. Before we could do anything, she suddenly disappeared. It's really not our fault. Please forgive us. Worthless. Qianyu furiously slapped them, sending several men tumbling to the ground, coughing up blood. With her chest heaving with anger, Qianyu coldly ordered, "Seal off this courtyard. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, find that person for me." Yes, Mrs. Qianyu." After Qianyu finished speaking, she did not stay in the courtyard but left in a hurry with her eyes twinkling. Arriving in a remote room, Qianyu fiddled with a bracelet in her hand. The bracelet quickly lit up and a projection appeared before her. Watching the figure appear on the screen, Qianyu said with guilt and anxiety, "Third Elder, I've greatly erred. We captured Heshi, but even though she was clearly restrained by the Crimson Voodoo King's threads, she suddenly vanished without a trace." In the projection, Lu Yunhai's face suddenly darkened. He gritted his teeth and said harshly, "Incompetent! You can't even handle such a simple task." Lu Wushuang, who was standing behind him, stood up suddenly and said anxiously, "Third uncle, what should we do now? Immortal Xian Qing must have given her some kind of treasure. If she contacts Xian Qing again, we will be in trouble." Lu Yunhai's eyes seemed to hold a storm of fury, yet his expression slowly cooled. Turning to Qianyu in the projection, he said, "Notify Silver Fox and the Lu family members in Jinling City to initiate Plan B." Qianyu's expression changed slightly, with a hint of excitement and panic on her face. She bowed and said, "Yes." Lu Wushuang also became excited. "Third uncle, are you sure that bitch is still in Yanjing City?" Lu Yunhai sneered. "We and the Green Vine clan have jointly set up a barrier around Yanjing City. Even if she escapes, there is absolutely no way she can escape from Song Mountain. She is alone now. What else can she do besides running to Nangongyu for help or escaping back to the sealed dragon domain? The wood source is all the hope of our Lu family. We must get it no matter what. Anyone who dares to stand in our way will die. No matter if it's the people in Yanjing City or Shiyu's men in the sealed dragon domain." Lu Wushuang laughed excitedly. "That wretched Heshi. If she had stayed put, we might have spared the people of Yanjing City or her subordinates in the sealed dragon domain. But she just had to cause us trouble, even thinking of escaping after being captured. Then don't blame us for a bloodbath in Yanjing. After all, our Lu family's discovery of the wood source must not be leaked." Chapter 1635. Escape. Yes. Their original plan was just to kidnap Shiyu and then use the voodoo poison inside Yunjingxue to control Nangongyu. This way, things could be resolved perfectly, without a single drop of blood being shed. However, things didn't go so smoothly. Therefore, they also arranged a backup plan. They decided to establish a barrier, effectively transforming all of Yanjing City and the nearby Tsang Mountains into an isolated place, leaving everyone trapped inside with no way to escape or call for help. As for the people in Yanjing City and Sealed Dragon Domain, they wouldn't mind sparing their lives if they didn't interfere with their plans. However, anyone who dared to stop them would face their wrath. In the eyes of Siamese people like them, the martial artists of the lower realm, whether they were royalty or disciples from prestigious clans, were nothing more than ants that could be crushed underfoot at any moment. In the void, after Heshi recovered, she began to look up the general outline of the Sumeru void. She discovered that new text had appeared in parts that were originally blank. Originally, Heshi's circle of life had not yet reached the soul condensation stage. However, due to Little Egg's sudden outbreak, something within the void's restrictions was unknowingly triggered, unexpectedly unsealing the void's capacity to accommodate her physical body. What frustrated Heshi was that after the first layer of shelter restriction was lifted, her physical body could only stay in the void for 1 hour. For the next 7 days, she wouldn't be able to trigger this function. For Heshi, who was now in danger, there was no way to truly get her out of danger. An hour passed quickly. Heshi appeared in the dim room. She restrained her spiritual power, lowering her presence. Then, she quietly jumped onto the roof. After walking for a while, Heshi saw a place emitting light from above. That was a recently activated array. It was the teleportation array that Qianyu had just mentioned that could send people outside Yanjing City. Heshi had also considered going to the Nangong Mansion to find Nangongyu, but at this moment, the Nangong Mansion must be the most heavily guarded place. If she were to enter, she might be facing a certain doom. The safest approach now was to return to the sealed dragon domain, as that was the most advantageous battlefield for her. Below, the person who had just activated the teleportation array and was about to report suddenly felt his vision go blurry. A figure slowly descended in front of him. The man was proficient in formations, but his cultivation was only at the gold core stage. Upon encountering Heshi, he didn't even have a chance to utter a word before being struck in the throat by the Li Shui sword, falling to the ground. Heshi was about to enter the teleportation array when suddenly, the door slammed open with a loud bang. Standing at the doorway were the 3 men who had earlier attempted to rape her in that dimly lit room. Each of these 3 people had the cultivation level of nascent soul stage. The moment they saw Heshi, their eyes glowed with excitement. Found her, the damn woman is here. She is going to enter the teleportation array. Stop her quickly. We must not let her escape. Catch her and present her to our master to redeem ourselves. Otherwise, we will surely suffer dire consequences. The 3 of them drew their swords and rushed toward Heshi ferociously. Heshi sneered. Li Shui sword soared into the sky, unleashing a fierce sword aura with a resounding whistle. When Qian Yu hurried to the scene after hearing the commotion, she found her subordinates lying on the ground, impaled by numerous swords. Then, she witnessed the graceful young girl gradually fading away within the teleportation array. Chapter 1636, Yun Jingxue is dead, Shiyu. Qian Yu let out a shrieking cry. Do you think you can escape? Notify Feng Yunzhao and ask him to use the tracking technique to track the traces of the voodoo's silk and determine the exact location of Shiyu. Also, send a message to Mu Hua, telling him to dispatch his men. Xie Yu is at a dead end and will definitely return to the sealed dragon domain. Since she wants to go back, we'll catch her there. Xie Yu, you have no way to escape now. I want to see how long you can remain arrogant. In the King of Hell Mansion, Qing Wan, Shi Jia, and others rushed in after hearing the commotion, only to witness the scene where Nangong Yu had a chilling expression, tightly gripping the neck of Shiyu. Qing Wan's face was painted with fear. Master, what are you doing? Let go of the queen. Gu Lufeng and Ouyang Haoshuan felt something was wrong with Nangong Yu's behavior just now, so they followed him. Gu Lufeng was shocked when he saw this scene and rushed over without thinking. Nangong Yu, what are you doing? However, before he could take a step, Ouyang Haoshuan stopped him. Ouyang Haoshuan's expression was gloomy and icy. His sharp gaze was fixed on the woman whose throat was being gripped by Nangong Yu. Even though she had the same breathtaking appearance, with identical eyebrows, eyes, and facial features, this person was not Xie Yu, because there was no trace of Xie Yu's scent on her. Instead, she emitted a nauseating stench, much like the odor found in many others. Nangong Yu looked coldly at Shiyu, who was lifted up in the air and said word by word, I'll say it again. Where is Shiyu? I'm Shiyu, Nangong Yu. Nangong Yu's hands suddenly tightened. If you don't tell me, just go to hell. Crack, crack, crack. That was the sound of the throat bones almost being crushed. The woman being held in the air by Nangong Yu's grip had her entire face contorted and grotesque, showing traces of bluish-black marks. Nangong Yu was indeed intent on strangling her, without the slightest hint of hesitation. At this moment, Yun Jingxue was finally scared. She couldn't breathe. She could hear the unpleasant sound like a broken bellows coming from her throat. The black aura silently emanated from Nangong Yu's hand. Upon contacting with this aura, the perfect disguise voodoo that had been applied to Yun Jingshue's face reacted as though it had encountered a formidable foe. It wriggled in fear, attempting to escape. Crack, dash, the disguised voodoo shattered into pieces, returning Yun Jingxue to her original appearance. But how could it be you? Qing Wan exclaimed, Where's the queen? Gu Lufeng also looked horrified. Why did she appear here as Shiyu? Where is Shiyu? Yun Jingshue's face was covered in tears and mucus as she looked at the man gripping her throat in terror. She hoarsely pleaded, Have mercy on me, I'll tell you. Someone asked me to replace Xie Yu and be with you in bed, it's Lu. Before Yun Jingxue could finish her sentence, her face contorted with fear, and her flesh began to rot at a speed visible to the naked eye. Eventually, she turned into a mummy corpse. Yun Jingxue was dead. Nangong Yu stared blankly at Yun Jingshue's lifeless body. He suddenly gripped her neck tightly, crushing the bones to pieces before throwing her aside. He turned around fiercely, his eyes glowing red like a demon's, and glared viciously at Qing Wan, Wu Nian, and others. Tell me, why was Shiyu switched? Where is Shiyu now? There was a barrier around the bridal chamber, so he would definitely know if anyone tried to break in. Chapter 1637. Didn't make it in time. The only way someone could have gotten into the bridal chamber was if Qing Wan and Wu Nian had let them in on purpose. Qing Wan's face was full of panic, and tears suddenly welled up. Impossible, impossible. How could Miss have been switched out? The one who is dead is Yun Jingxue, so where is the real Miss? It's old lady Nan Gong. Shi Jia blurted in a deep voice. Just now, only old lady Nan Gong entered the room. There was deep sorrow and regret in his eyes. He had already harbored suspicions, so why hadn't he sought further confirmation? If he had been more careful, Miss would not have gone missing. Hearing the words, old lady Nan Gong Yu's body swayed slightly, then he said coldly, bring the person here. I will question her myself. He wanted to ask his dear grandmother personally. Wu Nian was about to say something but hesitated. Master, old lady Nan Gong wouldn't have done such a thing. So, tell me, where's Shiyu now? Nan Gong Yu asked, his eyes cold. You were supposed to be keeping a close watch at the door. Look at the mess we're in now. Wu Nian shuddered violently, a spine-chilling fear rising from his core, weakening his knees to the point he almost wanted to kneel. Fists clenched, he hung his head in shame upon hearing Nan Gong Yu's words. Yes, he, Wu Nian, had been guarding here, and yet such an outcome had occurred. Among the master's 8 most trusted confidants, he and Wu Gu were the most proficient in array. Today, with Wu Gu in charge of the outside, he was responsible inside. Yet someone had managed to switch the bride right through their array, and he had detected nothing at all. Such a mistake was critical. Master, old lady Nan Gong is missing. Wu Yu hurried over to report. Nan Gong Yu's face was so gloomy that sweat dripped from his face. He exuded an aura of sheer brutality and ferocity all around him. Sheer had vanished right under his nose on their wedding night. The sounds of laughter and the clinking of glasses continued outside, oblivious to the storm brewing inside, ready to erupt like a volcano. Flutter, chirp, 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 urgent bird calls came from the sky not far away. It seemed particularly abrupt. Everyone looked up and saw a yellow Yumin bird constantly hitting the barrier. Its wings were riddled with wounds. Its urgent, piercing cries cut through the air. Nan Gong Yu's eyes narrowed. He waved his hand, removing the barrier. Yumin bird fell to the ground with a thud. Soon, her body shook, transforming into the appearance of a young girl. But at this moment, the young girl's condition was rather pitiful. She had wounds all over her body and a broken arm as well. As soon as Li Yu saw Nan Gong Yu, she immediately cried, Nan Gong, hurry, you have to save Shiyu. Someone's trying to capture her. Lots and lots of people are after her. Nan Gong Yu said urgently, who's trying to capture her? How did you know? Li Yu told Nan Gong Yu what she heard in the magical beast forest and the information Xiao Li passed on. The more he listened, the colder and darker his expression became. The Lu family, the Green Vine clan, so many people are coveting Shiyu's wood source when I'm unaware. As Shiyu's husband, how could I have been unaware of the peril she was in? Shiyu has been captured. Nan Gong Yu closed his eyes before saying hoarsely, do you know where they will take Shiyu? Li Yu burst into tears. She had rushed here as fast as possible, and Wu Qi had sustained serious injuries protecting her. Unfortunately, she still didn't make it in time. Chapter 1638. Pick one. Shiyu has been taken. What will happen to her? Could those villains kill her? Oh, I can't bear the thought of Shiyu dying. And if Shiyu were to die, how heartbroken Miss Xiaoli would be. Ouyang Haoshuan suddenly grabbed the struggling Xiaoqi with one hand and stepped forward. Xiaoqi knows where Shiyu is. This was a statement, not a question. Xiaoqi was also incessantly shouting, Sister, find sister? Sister is in danger. Xiao Qi wants to go, let me go, you bully. Xiao Qi paused for a moment, then muttered, brother-in-law, protect, sister. A slender hand grabbed his sleeve in a rush, urging, follow, Xiao Qi, go. Nangong Yu grabbed Xiao Qi and flew out of the King of Hell mansion like lightning, flying in the direction Xiao Qi pointed. His speed was incredibly fast. When Qing Long, Gu Lufeng, and the others chased him desperately, they felt only a gust of wind pass by, and then he was out of sight. Luckily, Ouyang Haoshuan had a blood pact with Heshi and had a faint sense of Heshi's direction, so he reluctantly chased after Nangong Yu. Not long after Nangong Yu left the King of Hell mansion, a familiar scream came to his ears, "You help." Nangong Yu stopped, put down the Xiao Qi in his hand, and looked coldly at the alley not far away. So at this moment, a woman dressed in white slowly emerging from the alleyway appeared strikingly out of place. There, in full white attire with a white veil, was a woman holding a dagger that shimmered with a purple glow. In her other hand she grasped an old woman's neck, the blade of the dagger pressing deeply against it. This old woman was dressed in gorgeous clothes and had a messy red hairpin on her head. She was none other than Old Lady Nangong. When Old Lady Nangong saw Nangong Yu, she burst into tears and shouted sadly, You. The woman in white suddenly raised a dagger and slashed it on the top of Old Lady Nangong's head. Suddenly, her bun was cut in half and all her gray hair fell to the floor. Nangong Yu, if you dare take one more step forward, don't blame me for being rough with this old hag. Nangong Yu looked at him coldly. He spoke coldly, Who is Lu Wushuang to you? Did she take Shiyu? Where is Lu Wushuang now? Tisk, he. Even while watching your own grandmother suffer, all you talk about is Shiyu. The woman in white chuckled. I really didn't expect that, just like your father, you're a hopeless romantic. How about this? Choose between the life of this old woman and Shiyu's life. What do you say, Your Highness, the King of Hell? Old Lady Nangong let out a scream of terror when her hair was cut off. She was trembling all over and looked at Nangong Yu pleadingly, You, save Grandma. Please save Grandma. Nangong Yu's gaze fell upon her, his expression as calm as still water. He slowly said, Then, Grandmother, please tell me first, why did you collude with outsiders to kidnap Shiyu? Why did you betray my trust in you? The expression on Old Lady Nangong's face stiffened, and then she immediately responded with a quivering voice. What nonsense are you talking about? How could I collude with outsiders to kidnap Shiyu? Have you been listening to others trying to sow discord? I am your grandmother. Chapter 1639. The mastermind behind the scenes. Yes, you are my grandmother. Nangong Yu suddenly burst out into laughter. His laughter was hoarse and strained, as if filled with immense regret. It is precisely because you're my only grandmother that I trusted you. But it was my foolish trust that put Shiyu in danger. It's me, I'm the one who harmed her. Hearing Nangong Yu's laughter, both the woman in white and Old Lady Nangong felt a chill as if the temperature around them had begun to drop. Just at this moment, Qing Long, Bai Hu, Qing Wan, Xian Wu, Wu Xian, Wu Yu, Wu Nian, and Wu Go had arrived. Gu Lufeng, Ouyang Haoshuan, Shi Jia, and others also arrived. Old Lady Nangong suddenly came back to her senses and started screaming non-stop. It's not me. It's not me. How could you wrongly accuse me? I have always been kind to Shiyu. How could I harm her? Qing Wan pointed at Old Lady Nangong and said with hatred, It was you. You were the only one who went into the bridal chamber. Who else could have kidnapped Miss if not you? I only regret why I didn't stop you from entering at that time, causing harm to Mississippi Sob. Before Old Lady Nangong could speak, Xian Wu suddenly stepped forward and said, Master, I have just received the investigation results from Enlin from the Miracle Healer Academy. It has been confirmed that Old Lady Nangong was indeed one of the masterminds who set up a trap to frame the queen that day. Moreover, she used her authority over the investigation to cover up for Yun Jingxue, who was also a co-conspirator. Back when Xian Wu conducted the investigation at the Miracle Healer Academy, he noticed traces of Yun Jingxue's involvement in the conspiracy, but old Lady Nangong covered it up. Therefore, after Xian Wu returned, he still left members of the Iron Kirin and Lin to continue the investigation. Initially, he just wanted to confirm that old Lady Nangong was protecting Yun Jingxue. However, to his surprise, the investigation eventually revealed that old Lady Nangong was the real mastermind behind the scenes, and even Mammy Chi was a confidant who acted under her orders. Xian Wu's sharp eyes swept over old Lady Nangong and the woman in white next to her. Moreover, Lin also found out that old Lady Nangong has long been in contact with Thousand Poison Valley Master Lu Wushuang. The Nangong family has been taking orders from the Lu family. In the beginning, it was old Lady Nangong who bridged the connection. There is another thing that my subordinates suspected but have not confirmed yet. On the day the master's mother fell victim to the voodoo poison, she had met quite a few people from the Nangong family. But, from what I know, the only person who had the trust of our master's mother, as well as the opportunity to commit the deed, was none other than the elderly Lady Nangong herself. If it hadn't been for the investigation into the Queen's case, which brought out the connection between old Lady Nangong and Lu Wushuang, I would have never imagined that the seemingly kindest elder of the Nangong family is actually the most sinister and vicious person. Nangong Yu revealed a bitter smile, his voice hoarse as he said, "I thought that in my family, there was at least one person who truly cared for me, who considered me family. But it turns out, the only person I trusted was the real mastermind behind the ruin of my household and the loss of my loved ones." Had Nangong Yu not placed complete trust in old Lady Nangong, Xian Wu wouldn't have held onto his suspicions in silence, choosing instead to wait until he had gathered enough evidence before speaking out. If Nangong Yu hadn't taken it lightly, if it weren't for his overconfidence in his ability to protect Shiyu, she wouldn't now be in a situation where her life or death remained uncertain. Nangong Yu's face gradually turned deathly pale, feeling a sharp, heart-wrenching pain in his chest. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and violently spat out a mouthful of blood. "Master!" Qing Long and others rushed over to help him in panic. Chapter 1640. Impending bloodshed. With a face frozen in shock, old Lady Nangong could no longer deny the accusations. Tears and snot covered her face as she cried, Your grandmother had no other choice. It was Lu Wushuang. She forced me to do it. If I didn't do as she said, she threatened to kill our entire Nangong family." "Sob, I'm your biological grandmother. Are you just going to stand by and watch your relatives die? No matter how good Shiyu is, she's still an outsider. No matter how wonderful a woman she is, once you're in Siam, wouldn't there be others you could marry? Your second uncle is also in the hands of the Lu family. If you dare to take action against the Lu family, our Nangong family will be doomed. After all, you bear the surname of Nangong. Do you want to watch all your relatives die for the sake of a woman?" Nangong Yu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. A chilling smile crept upon his face. His eyes were devoid of warmth. "The Nangong family is doomed, you say? That's fantastic. I wouldn't even want to dirty my hands killing you all myself." After saying that, he grabbed Shao Qi and jumped into the air. Gu Lufeng, Shi Jia, Qing Luan, and Ouyang Haoshuan quickly followed. They only cared about Shiyu's life and death at this moment. Qin Long and Wu Exin, however, stayed behind and surrounded the woman in white and old Lady Nangong. There was panic in the eyes of the woman in white. She looked around. 3 nascent soul stages, with formidable strength, surrounded her. Moreover, she was only at the intermediate level of the nascent soul stage. She stood no chance facing 7 opponents alone. Don't come any closer. This is the old lady of the Nangong family. Don't you care whether she lives or dies?" Responding to her, Wu Exin coldly gestured with a wave of his hand, "Do it." Moments later, in the dark, silent alley, the smell of blood permeated the air. Lying on the ground were a woman in white and an old lady with graying hair. Both had their eyes wide open, their gazes filled with fear and disbelief. The night was still young. The real battle and bloodshed had yet to begin. At the foot of the Tsang Mountains, red silk was now spread out, and the noise was earth-shattering. Yinjing City was only that big, but the guests attending Nangong Yu and Shiyu's wedding numbered in the hundreds if not thousands. Consequently, many banquet tables were also set up here. For example, the 100,000 Jinwei army, the staff from various branches of Shengde Hall, and some low-rank martial artists who came from afar to the wedding. Although it wasn't as lively here as at the King of Hell Mansion and the Cheong Luo banquet, the wine and spiritual food provided were also of excellent quality, with a rich aroma permeating the air. Zhou Yanan wore a scholar outfit. He squinted and smiled as he watched his younger brothers, Zhou Huayan and Qin Guang, laughing heartily while they enjoyed the feast. Wei Daxiao and Shisan also joined in. Hearty laughter was everywhere in the banquet. Chen Bai was sitting next to Zhou Yanan, watching this scene. He couldn't help but sigh. It feels like yesterday when we pledged our loyalty to the young master and followed him to serve Miss, who was then disguised as a man and only at the foundation establishment stage. In the blink of an eye, she has reached the gold core stage, about to marry into the King of Hell Mansion. Our Shengde Hall has expanded beyond our wildest dreams. Now, who in the Miluo continent doesn't know of our existence? Zhou Yanan smiled and nodded repeatedly, his eyes sparkling. He would never forget the days when Gu Lufeng was kidnapped by the Murong family and Shengde Hall closed down. He was left with no place to go. He would never forget how Shiju reached out to him at the pivotal moment, bringing Shengde Hall back from the brink of collapse and restoring its name to glory across the world. Chapter 1641. Many people. Chen Guang bit into a piece of meat and sighed. Our 100,000 Jinwei army originally followed young Master Ouyang to seek refuge with the young lady, hoping to become the young lady's backing and help her conquer the world. Who would have expected that the young lady didn't need our help at all? She took care of everything by herself. Moreover, we also got great benefits from the young lady. It's really shameful to think about it. Sitting in the corner, the young troublemaker Shi Lang was feeding soup to a girl called Little Wan. Upon hearing those words, he clenched his fist and shook it, saying, "My future skills will definitely surpass Mrs. I will become Mrs. personal bodyguard and protect her. Just wait and see." Everyone present burst into hearty laughter, both amused by Shi Lang's youthful boasting and cherishing Shiyu's kindness toward them in their hearts. Suddenly, Shi Lang, who had been ladling soup, twitched his nose and furrowed his brow, saying, "Many people are approaching this way." Many people? Zhou Yanan frowned. By all rights, the guests who came to attend the wedding banquet should have been settled by now, right? Why would there be many more people? Shi Lang frowned tightly. His years of wandering experience gave him a sense of unease. However, he couldn't tell what was wrong. "Who are you?" Chen Bai suddenly shouted and shot out like an arrow. Soon, he was holding a young man covered in blood, asking, "Who are you? Why are you sneaking around here?" "Notify Miss." The young man's face was ashen. His voice was hoarse and intermittent. "Someone is trying to capture her. The Liu family and the Green Vine clan have dispatched numerous experts of soul-splitting stage and nascent soul stage to capture her. Tell her quickly escape." Zhou Yanan looked at the young man covered in blood. The more he looked, the more familiar he seemed. He suddenly exclaimed, "Aren't you Xiao Li's brother? The miss you are talking about is Shiyu, right? Who is trying to capture Shiyu?" Wu Qi opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His voice became weaker and weaker. "It's too late, miss, run away." After saying this, Wu Qi passed out completely, and even his breathing almost stopped. Zhou Yanan, Qin Guang, and the rest looked at each other. They all saw the solemnity and worry on each other's faces. Shisan bit her nails and looked around. The place was crowded with people drinking wine. Most of them were soldiers of the Jinwei army and employees of Shengde Hall. Everyone knows that Shiyu values friendship the most. If an expert from the soul-splitting stage comes to massacre us, could she possibly stand by uncaring? Shi Lang said many people are approaching this place. Are they here to take our lives? Open the sealed dragon domain. Shisan jumped onto the dining table in a hurry and shouted, "Everyone, enter the sealed dragon domain immediately." Entering the sealed dragon domain would provide them the ability to fend off the attackers. The festive atmosphere was replaced by solemnity in an instant. The 100,000 Jinwei army was well trained. They immediately entered the sealed dragon domain in an orderly manner upon hearing the order. However, some of the associates from the Shengda Hall, along with other low-level warriors who came to join in the excitement, all seemed unconcerned. They didn't understand why Shiyu's followers suddenly made such a fuss about nothing. Chapter 1642, Kill Without Mercy. Some guests even sneered. Could it be that the King of Hell and Shiyu have been bled dry by our feasting, and they can't afford to let us continue eating? I've heard that the sealed dragon domain is full of traps and is entirely under Shiyu's control. If they have evil intentions, aren't we just vulnerable livestock with our lives in their hands? The teleportation array to the sealed dragon domain kept lighting up. Although everyone was moving quite fast, it still took a considerable amount of time. As the last group of people approached the teleportation array, suddenly, an old and solemn voice came from the distance. All soldiers of the Tsang Ming Kingdom, heed my command. Kill everyone without mercy. Kill. 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 At the foot of Tsang Mountain, one could intermittently hear the clashing of weapons, the frightened screams and angry shouts of men and women, and the sounds of flesh being pierced. Some martial artists attempted to flee. However, just as they flew not too far out, it was as though they had hit a wall. Their bodies convulsed uncontrollably as thunder crackled and lightning struck them, instantly electrocuting them into charred corpses. This place had become a complete hell, where any creature attempting to escape would be mercilessly slaughtered. The red silk originally spread on the ground had long been torn, burned, and reduced into a mess, but the ground underneath was still bright red, stained red with blood. In sealed dragon domain, Zhou Yanan looked at the scene of the massacre outside, his face as pale as paper. He recognized this army. It was the army of the Tsang Ming Kingdom, a total of 300,000 low-rank martial artists. The leader was Venerable Mu Hua, a peak expert on the nascent soul stage. He was also the sole survivor when the Feng family was annihilated, the Feng family patriarch. After everyone outside was killed, the Feng family's patriarch came to the entrance of sealed dragon domain and sneered, "Those of you inside, listen well. If you hand over Shiyu obediently, that will be it. I might even spare your life. But if not, don't blame me for flattening Tsang Mountain and turning all of you into wandering souls within these hills." Zhou Yanan and the others were relieved when they heard this. So, the young lady escaped and didn't fall into their hands? Thank goodness! Thank goodness! The sealed dragon domain's barrier was tightly shut. The place was quiet except for the sound of the evening breeze blowing the leaves. Feng family's patriarch frowned. He was about to order a full-scale attack, when a man with a sallow complexion stepped forward from behind him. With a mocking smile, he said, "A mere soul-splitting stage old-timers set up this place. It might stop a martial artist's nascent soul stage, but you still want to stop me? Ridiculous." The sealed dragon domain was left behind by immortal Zijin before he ascended. At the time, he was only a soul-splitting stage practitioner. The one who stepped forward to speak was Qishan, who also had soul-splitting stage cultivation. He slowly brought his hands together. A ball of light, resembling a vortex, appeared between them. He then fiercely launched it, and it landed at the entrance of the sealed dragon domain. Boom! There was a massive explosion. The earth shook and the mountains quaked, with rocks crumbling. A crack appeared in the tightly sealed dragon domain. Dust was kicked up and settled, revealing the figures of hundreds of thousands of people. Feng family's patriarch burst into hearty laughter. "Sir Qishan, what impressive skills and cultivation you have. Now, I'd like to see where those scoundrels could possibly run off to." Zhou Yanan trembled slightly. Just now, he felt the teleportation array to the secret domain was destroyed. In other words, they were now in the Greenwood domain. Even if they wanted to escape to other domains, they were unable to do anything unless the real owner of the secret domain, Shiyu, returned. Chapter 1643. Are you afraid of death? Feng family's patriarch levitated in the air. Scanning the place with his divine sense and finding no trace of Shiyu's presence, he frowned in displeasure. He looked down at the hundreds of thousands of people in the sealed dragon domain and said coldly, I know Shiyu is not here. If any of you can reveal Shiyu's possible hiding place, even just one, I can spare your life. In the end, Shiyu is just a little girl. How deep can her connection be with you all? Is she more important than your brothers and family? If you just tell me where Shiyu is, I can not only spare your life but also ensure that your power greatly increases. How about it? Does anyone wish to speak now? Silence fell over the Greenwood domain. Not a single voice was raised. A boy from the Shengda Hall branch took a cautious step forward. If I tell you, will you really spare me? A surge of joy welled up in the heart of the Feng family's patriarch. Just as the boy opened his mouth to speak, a flash of silver light streaked from the large golden ring blade in Qinbai's hand. The boy was silenced before he could utter a word. With his face still pale, Zhou Yanan didn't spare the young man a glance. He said coldly, We have already sworn allegiance to Mississippi. Anyone who dares to betray Miss will be killed without mercy. Our lives are right here. If you want them, come and take them, but making us betray the young miss? In your dreams. Chen Guang shouted loudly. Chen Bai waved his golden ring blade and looked coldly at all the guys in Shengda Hall. Whoever else wants to betray the young miss and the young master, step forward now. Betrayal of miss will be met with merciless death. Kill without mercy. In unison, the 100,000 Jinwei army soldiers raised their voices. The ground shook for a moment, and the valley seemed to rumble with echoes. The Feng family's patriarch's expression became unsightly. He hadn't expected that Shiyu, just a young girl, would command such loyalty from her subordinates. Those were 100,000 soldiers, yet not a single one harbored thoughts of betrayal. Qishan sneered, his expression cruel yet nonchalant. They are just a bunch of ants. If they refuse to obey, then kill them. Kill them slowly. Make it more agonizing. I don't believe Shiyu can resist coming out. Yes, Sir Qishan. Feng family's patriarch waved his hand toward the 300,000 Song Ming Kingdom's army behind him. His aged voice carried far and wide. Annihilate all living beings in the sealed dragon domain. Since you spurn courtesy and seek death, so be it, I shall grant your wish. Chen Guang leaped onto a hilltop and shouted to the 100,000 soldiers, Brothers, are you afraid of death? We live for battle, we die for battle. What's there to fear? From the moment Mr. Ouyang entrusted us to Miss Shi, she became our only master. We swear to protect our master with our lives. Good. Chen Guang's eyes reddened, and his hoarse roar echoed through the valley. Those unafraid of death, follow me, charge. We'll stake our lives against these sons of bitches. Charge. Kill these sons of bitches. Master, what is that? Qing Wan asked in horror, pointing at the runes slowly flashing in the sky. Those runes were densely packed like a net, trapping everyone in it. Nangong Yu's eyes were deep red, flickering and elusive, profound like a deep, icy water. He slowly said, Isolation barrier. Just as Qing Wan was about to ask what the isolation barrier was, she saw Xian Wu rushing over, kneeling before Nangong Yu. His voice tinged with a hint of panic. Master, I tried to summon the Iron Kirin, but attempts through both the transmission talisman and the boundless black market were futile. Chapter 1644, Get Lost. I attempted to head to the Iron Kirin camp, but as soon as I left Yanjing City, I got repelled by a powerful force. Gu Lufeng and the others also stared at the dense runes in the sky, swallowing hard before saying, The people from the Siam continent, what do they want to do by setting up such a terrifying net? Is it all just to capture Shiyu? Ouyang Haoshuang glanced at Gu Lufeng with a mocking smile flashing across his eyes. What are they trying to do? Of course, they want to obtain the wood source from Shiyu. Back then, the Feng family tortured my parents to death for the fire element spirit pearl in me. However, What does the fire element spirit pearl amount to compared to the wood source? With such a treasure in Shiyu's possession, how could it not drive people mad? Sister! It's sister! Shao Qi suddenly shouted excitedly. His hands instinctively hit the ground. He was ready to run over like a wild beast. Simultaneously, the blood within Ouyang Haoshuan also surged, a sensation belonging to the blood pact. Even Shi Jia and others, who had Shiyu's fundamental essence planted in their bodies, said excitedly, "It's Mississippi. She is heading to the sealed dragon domain. Let's hurry over there." Where the sword passed, the air seemed to have been cleaved by thunder, creating a fissure that emitted crackling and snapping sounds. Subsequently, several figures gradually emerged amidst the flickering electric light. It turns out that Shiyu is rushing to the sealed dragon domain. Thank you so much for telling us the news. Lu Yunhai wore a smug smile on his face. Looking at Nangong Yu and the others, his eyes were full of contempt and mockery, along with excitement about soon securing the wood source. Behind Lu Yunhai were Lu Wushuang and Qian Yu, who wore white clothes and veils, as well as Silver Fox, Black Snake, and Lu Shuyang from the Green Vine clan. Upon seeing Nangong Yu's incomparably handsome face, she fell into a trance, and her whole heart seemed as if it would leap out of her chest. She resented Yun Charan for snatching away Nangong Outyin. However, she hadn't expected upon laying eyes on Nangong Yu, she would discover that this son of Nangong Outyin and Yun Charan surpassed even Nangong Outyin himself. He was all the more capable of stirring her heart and soul. Nangong Yu swung the Xian Yuan sword in his hand and said coldly, "Get lost." "What are you to dare tell us to get lost?" Black Snake sneered. "Just a low-level cultivator from the lower realms who lucked into training up to the soul-splitting stage. Do you think you're really all that? Believe it or not." Before Black Snake could finish speaking, the Xian Yuan sword in Nangong Yu's hand suddenly soared into the air, emitting a piercing howl as it thrust straight toward Black Snake. The overwhelming momentum greatly changed Black Snake's expression. Narrowing his eyes, Lu Yunhai suddenly leaped up. The dark red sword in his hand was unsheathed and he faced Xian Yuan's sword directly. With a bang, a loud noise erupted as the two swords clashed, light flashing brilliantly as bright as daylight. Luo Yunhai retrieved his sword, with a murky and indistinct light in his eyes. "Truly worthy of being Nangong Outyen's son, you have some skill. But if you intend to stop my Luo family from securing the wood source, then don't blame me for being ruthless." Wu Shuang, Qian Yu, enter the sealed dragon domain first. Make sure you capture Shiyu alive. Yes, Third Elder. Nangong Yu's face was filled with fury. Seeing that Luo Wushuang and the others were about to rush toward the sealed dragon domain, he dashed forward in a blur, ready to charge at them. Chapter 1645. A battle with no chance of winning. Lu Yunhai sneered. The aura around him surged, like an overwhelming mountain. Even the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers drastically changed their color. At this moment, the third elder of the Lu family truly showed his strength. Even the Silver Fox was startled. He instinctively retreated. That was the advanced level of the Void Darkness stage. That cultivation level surpassed Nangong Yu's cultivation by a whole stage. A Void Darkness stage martial artist at the advanced level would reduce everyone present into a pool of blood with one slash. Only Nangong Yu had the slightest possibility of fending off the attack. Lu Yunhai swung his sword, sweeping through like a hurricane with a mighty buzzing noise. Dang! There was a loud collision. Nangong Yu's figure flickered, and he stood before everyone. The Xian Yuan sword trembled violently and made a cracking sound. Nangong Yu's face turned pale as blood spilled from his mouth. "Master!" Qing Long and the rest screamed. Nangong Yu glanced at Shao Qi and then at Ouyang Haoshuan. "I'll stop him. You guys rush to the sealed dragon domain and make sure to send Shao Qi back to Shiyu." Only he knew how much wood energy Shao Qi contained. If Shiyu was seriously injured, the only one who could help Shiyu recover was Shao Qi. Ouyang Haoshuan was startled. His expression slowly became solemn. "I swear, I will definitely rush back to Xieyu's side, and I will ensure Xiaoqi's safe return. Gu Lufeng grabbed Xiaoqi, his voice trembling. Nangongyu, be careful. After saying that, Gu Lufeng carried Xiaoqi on his back. Then he ran his spiritual power around his body, and he rushed toward the sealed dragon domain like a fired arrow. Thinking you can leave just like that? Heh, do you treat us as nothing? Black Snake showed a contemptuous smile. A thick, foul-smelling black gas emanated from his body as he prepared to fly toward Gu Lufeng and his companions. However, the black gas failed to spread to Gu Lufeng and the others. Wu Xen held the long sword in his hand and slashed toward the black gas, barely blocking Black Snake's attack. Master has instructed them to leave, so they must leave. No one is allowed to stop them. 6 other people, including Qing Long and Wu Yu, also stepped forward and stood beside Wu Xen, looking at Black Snake coldly. Haha, you merely have 2 nascent souls and a few gold core stages, yet you want to stop me? Black Snake threw his head back, his laughter filled with mockery. What do you consider yourselves? And who do you think I am? Minions, slay these golden cores. Upon your return, I will commend your achievements to our master. 6 martial artists from the nascent soul stage rushed forward fiercely and surrounded Qing Long's group. A soul-splitting stage versus a void darkness stage at the advanced level. 2 nascent soul stage and 5 gold core stage versus 6 nascent soul stage and 1 soul-splitting stage. This was a battle destined to have no chance of winning, but no one would back down. Gu Lufeng, Ouyang Haoshuan, and Shi Jia, carrying Xiaoqi, desperately rushed toward the Tsang Mountain direction. Even if the spiritual energy in their bodies was exhausted, they directly absorbed spiritual energy from the crystal stones, oblivious to the pain in their meridians as if on fire. Suddenly, a peal of laughter, clear as a silver bell, echoed through the air, as if ringing right beside their ears. Gu Lufeng and the others halted abruptly. Their faces were cold and solemn. Qian Yu's graceful figure slowly fell from the air, followed by several martial artists from the nascent soul stage, with fluttering clothes and grace. However, in the eyes of Gu Lufeng and others, they were demons descending from the sky. As soon as Qian Yu landed, she chuckled and said, "Tis Kisei, that little girl Shiyu is so pretty and blessed. All the men around her are so fresh and young." Chapter 1646, Promise, handsome, considering how charming you are, how about this? You hand over the person on your back, and I'll let you guys go. Do? Nangongyu said that you must send him to Shiyu. Hee, you're making me curious about what is so special about this boy. Gu Lufeng took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Ouyang Haoshuan, can you discern her cultivation level? Ouyang Haoshuan shook his head. Gu Liufeng's face turned as pale as paper. Ouyang Haoshuan was a nascent soul stage. He couldn't see this woman's cultivation level, which meant that this woman was at least a soul-splitting stage. For them to face the soul-splitting stage, their fate was sealed. Gu Lufeng closed his eyes. He suddenly put Xiaoqi on Ouyang Haoshuan's back and said in a deep voice, Haoshuan, you take Xiaoqi and go first. I will hold off this woman. Ouyang Haoshuan frowned and was about to put Xiaoqi back on Gu Liufeng's back. However, Gu Lufeng stopped him. Ouyang Haoshuan, you have to remember that the most important thing now is to save Shiyu and fulfill our promise, protect Shiyu. Your cultivation level is higher than mine. Only if you take Xiaoqi with you, will you have a greater chance of sending him to Shiyu. Ouyang Haoshuan stood there for a long time, then lowered his eyes. The golden silk flew out of his hand and tied Xiaoqi tightly to his body. One of his hands was broken, and the other hand had to hold the red lotus sword, so he had to use this method. Qing Wan's eyes reddened with tears welled up in her eyes. She had abandoned her master and even left Qing Long and the others to hurry here, all in the hope of returning to her Mississippi. It was her negligence that allowed Miss to be kidnapped. Even if she had to sacrifice her life, she would still protect Miss at all costs. Qing Wan was about to call Shi Jia and the others to leave, but Shi Jia suddenly pushed her hard to Ouyang Haoshuan. Mr. Ouyang, Miss Qing Wan, you go first. We will stop them with young Master Gu. You all. Qing Wan's voice broke into sobs. She finally could no longer hold back her tears. Shi Jia smiled. His expression was honest and steady. Miss Qing Wan, don't blame yourself. The ones who should feel guilty are us. As the Mrs. Subordinate and her personal guards, we let her be taken. Even in death, we couldn't atone for our sins. Young Master Gu is already having a hard time dealing with that woman alone. Let us stop her followers. Mr. Ouyang, Miss Qing Wan, please send Shao Qi back to Mississippi. Qian Yu burst into laughter when he heard their conversation as if he had heard a ridiculous joke. A bunch of slaves in the physique training stage who aren't martial artists yet, and a gold core stage actually think they can stop us? Go Hui, they're looking down on you, even having the thought of stopping you here. I wonder what's going through your mind. A young man with a soft yet malicious face behind Qian Yu slowly stepped forward upon hearing those words. He sneered, "Heh, I will teach them the consequences of their arrogance. Tell me, for the insult to a high-level martial artist on the verge of reaching the soul-splitting stage, how do you wish to die? Skinned and torn apart, or shall I break every bone in your bodies?" Gu Hui, the best general under Qian Yu, was approaching the soul-splitting stage with his cultivation level. He only needed an opportunity to break through from the nascent soul stage. Over a year ago, Shi Jia and the others were considered trash, not even having reached the qi refining stage. They were merely slaves, confined in cages and sold at will. Chapter 1647. Waiting for the lady to come back. Ouyang Haoshuan took a deep breath, and the flaming spiritual power in his dantian was fuming. He did not stop or look back but quickly rushed toward the sealed dragon domain. Tears filled Qing Wan's face. Finally, she took a deep look at Gu Lufeng and Shi Jia, then turned around to follow Ouyang Haoshuan. The sealed dragon domain was clearly in front of them, but the road to Shiyu felt so distant. Sealed dragon domain. The pungent smell of blood pervaded the valley, with viscous liquid flowing on the ground like water, staining the plants red and soaking into the soil. The Feng family patriarch stared blankly at the nearby battlefield, where fierce fighting and shouting echoed. Suddenly, he swallowed as a bead of sweat rolled down his forehead. He had never imagined that the battle would become so intense. Despite having an army of 300,000 and numerous high-rank martial artists from the Gold Core stage, he was helpless against a mere 100,000. Indeed, everyone knew that apart from Iron Kirin of the King of Hell Mansion, the Jinling Kingdom's army was nothing more than a motley crowd. Half a year ago, most of the soldiers in the Zhenwei army were mortals with no cultivation. In contrast, almost everyone in the Tsangming Kingdom's army was a martial artist above the qi refining stage. However, what had they gone through in just 6 months? Why were they able to fight the Tsangming Kingdom's army with a huge disparity of 100,000 units to 300,000 units? What exactly was driving them? Even with severed hands, exhausted breath, and blood covering their bodies, they refused to take a single step back. On the battlefield, with a single slash, Chen Guang took down a soldier from the Tsangming Kingdom. Wiping the blood from his face, he shouted hoarsely to a young man beside him, "Shan Zi, how are you? Are you still alive?" "Captain, I'm fine. Even if I die, I will kill them all." "Ha. Yes, I've disliked them for a long time. Isn't that old man from the Feng family one of the main culprits behind harming General Ouyang? Even if we can't kill that bastard, killing more of their soldiers would be avenging the general." "Huh, yes, kill them and avenge the general." Shanzi shouted loudly, but his voice abruptly halted when a saber, flickering with flames, pierced through his dantian. "Shanzi!" Chen Guang shouted loudly, his voice tinged with a sobbing tone. Around him were fallen comrades and cries echoing their unyielding determination, even in the face of death. "Captain! I, Shanzi, have no regrets about following the general and Mississippi captain. Kill more of those bastards, avenge us." Shanzi grabbed the blade firmly, disregarding the blood gushing out from his bleeding abdomen. He lunged at the person behind him. "Even if I die, I will take you down with me." Zhou Yanan slashed at Song Ming Kingdom's general who charged at him, and then shouted to Shi Lang, "Shi Lang, take the children and leave first. Do you hear me? This is an order." Shi Lang held his head high defiantly. His eyes were fierce like a wolf, staring at his enemy. "Butler Zhou, my only master is the young lady. You can't order me around. We were originally saved by the young lady. Without her, there would be no us. The sealed dragon domain belongs to the lady. Even if I die, I'll stay here waiting for her return." Zhou Yanan's eyes were bloodshot, and his body trembled uncontrollably. In the end, he said hoarsely, "Okay, good boy. Even in death, we must guard the sealed dragon domain for Shiyu." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.